Hey, it's Jake Reitma filling in for Matt Derry on Locked On Lions, and the LSU Tigers and their fans need to back off Kelvin Sheppard. Plus, we'll talk some injury updates. That's all next on the Locked On Lions podcast.
You are Locked On Lions, your daily Detroit Lions podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And here we go. Jake Reitma back, pinch hitting for Matt Derry once again. Welcome one, welcome all. Shout out to our everydayers. Appreciate you tuning in to this edition of the Locked On Lions podcast. Free and available wherever you get your podcasts, and of course on YouTube. Make sure you like today's video. Go ahead and subscribe as well. And how about a huge shout out for today's presenting sponsor, making this show possible. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use that code LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off your first purchase. As always, shout out to the everydayers, and one in particular because I read all of the fine comments and all of the not so nice comments, but some very nice and encouraging comments, which I do appreciate it. And shout out to Jeff Wilford. He's an everydayer. And Jeff Wilford was my barber at Northwood University when I was in college. He cut my hair before every college football game. What a guy. He was listening to me when I was just doing podcasting for fun before it was actually the way I was making a living in this crazy industry. That's my guy, Jeff Wilford. Shout out to you. He's our everydayer of the day. If that's a thing, I know, like I said, hey, I'm going to do some things my way when I'm filling in for Matt Derry, which shout out to Matt Derry as well. Appreciate the opportunity to step in and pinch hit as we get ready for the Lions to resume the action. So what do we got going on for today's episode? It is Tuesday, October 28th. And how about a few injury updates, some positive news, some maybe wait and see type of news. And then, as I said in the intro, my goodness, not again. The LSU Tigers and their fan base need to back off. I know the college football hot board, the message boards, when coaches are fired, people get these crazy ideas and they start connecting the dots and they look like the guy on Horrible Bosses that's going all over and connecting everything, and they just need to relax and leave our guy Kelvin Shepard alone. Listen, Lions had to replace both coordinators last year, and I know it's a product of success, but we'll get into that a little bit more as the episode goes along, and then we'll close it out with some Lions offensive adjustments that perhaps we'll see post bye week. So let's begin with the injury updates here on Locked On Lions. And as I mentioned, if you missed yesterday's episode, my name is Jake Reitma, filling in for Matt Derry. And my background was at 97 Won the Ticket for 5 years now with Locked On and the Locked On Podcast Network. And maybe that's why you hate me, because I was in 97 Won the Ticket for many years. By many years, I mean 5 years. Got my broadcast journalism degree from Northwestern University at the fine school, the Medill School of Journalism. And before that, my undergrad, Northwood University, the nationally ranked Northwood University Timberwolves. I played football there for many years. And by many years, I don't know why I keep saying that, 4 years at Northwood University. And I also do a college football show on 105.3 The Fan in Dallas. I like to think I'm qualified, if that means anything for you. But again, I read those comments the other night and ripping me apart, which again, it's part of the job. But here we go. We'll start with the positive news. Taylor Decker, we know how important he is to this offensive line. Sat out practice yesterday, but will be back on the practice field on Thursday. No reason why you shouldn't expect to see him in the lineup. And it just is so important to have that veteran leadership, that veteran cohesion on the offensive line and everything else that stems with it. I don't want to spend a lot of time on that because anybody that listens to the Locked On Lions podcast, anyone that follows the Lions knows how important it is to have Taylor Decker in the lineup. Now, talking about some guys whose 21-day windows are in the midst of coming off injured reserve, Sione Vaki. That is huge, and what a lift he would be for this Lions special teams unit. He practiced on Monday. He's looking good. Practiced again today. They're trying to ramp him up to be ready to go for Sunday. They're hopeful that he can, in fact, be on the field. And if I can nerd out for a second on special teams, and sometimes special teams gets overlooked, and as the NFL rules continue to adapt and change a little bit, I believe that special teams will continue to be more impactful on a game in and game out basis, like you're seeing this year. I mean, I don't have the exact numbers, but obviously kick returns are up an extraordinary amount in comparison to last year. And it's becoming more and more of a strategic component to the game where you can have kickers, pin the ball in these landing zones, or as opposed to just booming it out of the end zone like we saw for many, many years. And the whole goal of the rule adjustments in special teams is for each and every play to be worth watching. And they used to call it, hey, you can go finish at the concession stand getting another round of beers or nachos or whatever it is at the concession stand. You don't have to watch the kickoff because it was always a touchback. And Roger Goodell and company don't want that. So special teams are going to continue to play a major role. And when you get a guy like Sione Vaki back who plays on multiple units, on the punt unit, on the kickoff unit, on the kick return unit, on the punt return unit, and so on and so forth, it just adds such a lift to that special teams unit. So I know everybody understands the importance of having a guy like Sione Vaki back in the lineup, but that's exciting that it could be sooner rather than later. How about DJ Reed? One more week to complete his 21-day practice window before coming back off IR. And just a reminder, they don't have to use the full 21 days, but that's the maximum there. So as far as roster construction, you can look for DJ Reed to be back on the active roster within the next week. And is it going to be this weekend? Not sure. However, he was seen working back from that hamstring injury. And obviously the secondary and the need for the reinforcements to come back from the secondary, that is crucial. That is huge. And he's a guy that would add a lot of depth to that corner position, and obviously was brought in to be a number one corner for this Detroit Lions team. So looking forward to the continuous positive updates, hopefully, on that. All right. Marcus Davenport is the big, I don't want to say elephant in the room, but just the more uncertain one where it's kind of a wait and see. When Dan Campbell spoke, there wasn't anything definitive, which I think is no surprise to anybody. He did say he's optimistic that he'll play again this year. So timeline wise, you don't want to get into the worst case scenario thought process, but it's certainly in the back of your mind just because of the injury history with Davenport. And it's one of those things that quantifying a timetable to return, I'm certainly not qualified to do that. I mean, we can all agree with that. But at the same time, he makes plays, and it's at a position of need. And listen, we can all agree that this Lions defense is not in a position to say, we don't need him coming back. Of course not. Nobody would say that. So I'm optimistic that will also be sooner rather than later. That being said, hey, the bye week, hopefully it helps Kerby Joseph. That was the last one I wanted to mention. Kerby Joseph obviously has been dealing with knee stuff since training camp. So the bye week was supposed to help him. He didn't play that last Monday night game before the bye week. So it goes without saying, the leader of that secondary, vocal leader on and off the field, face of the defense, one of those pillars of this Detroit Lions era, and hopefully he can be back on the field of play for Sunday's game against Minnesota. A lot more updates, and again, with it being Tuesday, October 28th, a lot of this can change before Sunday. It can be the ups, the downs, but I think given the not that other guys aren't as meaningful names. I don't want to use the term meaningful, but given the big names that we covered and discussed there, I think it was worth reiterating where everybody's at as far as their return to play. So when we come back, we are going to talk about the big topic of the day, because listen, blood pressure's up a little bit. I'm getting a little bit fiery just thinking about a college program trying to poach our defensive coordinator that is in his first year doing a tremendous job. We will talk about that next. Don't go anywhere. It's the Locked On Lions podcast.
I'm Cody Rourke from Locked On Broncos, and this episode is brought to you by Peloton. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. This is Peloton's most advanced equipment yet, giving you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or you're cross-training with your favorite instructors like Alex Toussaint. It's training reimagined to make your workout more personal. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with features that help you plan, stay motivated, and hit peak performance. You can let yourself run, lift, flex, and go while Peloton handles all the rest. Plus, Peloton IQ provides real-time strength coaching, tracking your progress and suggesting weights that challenge you so you can get stronger. Plus, the new movement tracking camera, it counts your reps and corrects your form in real time, making sure every rep is safer and smarter. So let yourself run, lift, flex, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com.
All right, back with you on the Locked On Lions podcast. If you don't know by now, my name is Jake Rietma, filling in for Matt Derry, pinch hitting for Matt Derry, if you will. Which, by the way, did anybody stay up for that World Series game last night? I tried my best, but 18 innings, come on now. That ain't happening, especially since I'm on the radio at beginning 5 a.m. in Dallas. So that absolutely would not have happened. But here we go. Segment number 2, Kelvin Sheppard. Let me back up a little bit. The college coaching search is going to be absolutely insane. College football head coaching search. And again, this one is near and dear to my heart because I'm in that world with college football, doing my college football show, Fan University, every Saturday morning, which is my shameless plug. But the number of blue blood programs that are looking for their next head coach, it just continues to grow. And I won't bore everybody with that because I know you're here for Lions conversation, but at first it was Virginia Tech, then you got Arkansas, then, James Franklin's fired at Penn State. Now Brian Kelly at LSU fired. And I know there's some more mixed in there as well, but the point being college football and college athletics in general is in a different state, a new era. It's paying the players, it's NIL, it's professional sports. Let's call it what it is. And because of that, these big name programs are looking for the next savior of their programs. And it doesn't look the same that it used to in college football. You're not just looking for, and no disrespect to any of those guys, but you're seeing a lot of college coaches get out of the game because they don't want to deal with all the BS and NIL and roster management and the transfer portal and everything else. Nick Saban is probably the biggest and best example. And every school thinks they're going to find their next Curt Cignetti, which if you don't follow college football, Curt Cignetti is at Indiana, and the Indiana Hoosiers are the number 2 team in the country. That's right. Indiana Hoosiers in college football. They don't have anything, no tradition whatsoever. And he took over that program, and now look at them. So brings my attention to LSU because message boards for college football fans, especially SEC football fans, are absolutely insane. I mean, you talk about off the cusp and unhinged. That's probably the best way to put it. Unhinged. It's LSU football fans. It's SEC message boards. And Kelvin Sheppard is obviously, we know, an LSU grad, played at LSU, played in the NFL, all of those endearing qualities that we knew would make him such a great defensive coordinator. And again, small sample size, 7 games, but Lions defense 11th in the NFL, allowing just over 21 points per game, 8th in average yards per play, allowing just over 5 yards per play. All of these are great statistics, but what Kelvin Sheppard brings to the table is the moxie. It is the presence. It is everything he brought as a position coach that was well documented on Hard Knocks and some of those behind the scenes footage videos that were when the Lions were the subject of Hard Knocks that got out there. And you fall from a fan's perspective, you could say you fall in love with his ability to motivate guys, his ability to connect with players. And those are all characteristics that LSU fans are seeing as that's who we want as the face of our program. That's who we want leading the charge. And so that checks a lot of boxes, sure. But where it becomes a little bit more compelling of a conversation, or interesting conversation, if you will, is some of the financial measurements and implications that Kelvin Sheppard, or whoever the next head coach of the LSU football program will be, because we're talking. Kurt Cignetti, I mentioned him, just signed a new deal worth over $11 million. Dan Lanning, the head coach at Oregon, is rumored to be getting closer to that $13 million range. And these are all insane salaries, combined with being the guy that saves your alma mater, because the LSU football program is in a world of hurt right now. And obviously they hired the wrong guy in Brian Kelly, and he drove that program into the ground. And again, this is purely reading message boards. This is not reporting. And obviously, hopefully you can understand that and not fire me up in the comments and, oh, this guy is saying he's going to be the next head coach. That's not at all where we're just having a discussion about why Kelvin Sheppard is appearing on LSU message boards and in AI generated photos of wearing the LSU purple and gold and everything else. Now, adding a little bit of, I don't want to say fuel to the fire, but certainly not putting out these fires. Kelvin Sheppard apparently was liking some of these posts on Instagram, and I don't want to get into that world. I like to think, even though I'm 33 years old, that I'm still an old soul, and before social media and TikTok and everything else took over, that liking something doesn't mean anything. And I really don't think it does. I'm trying to put the kibosh to it before anything else, because Kelvin Sheppard, I think, has a brilliantly bright future in the National Football League. I think he's got a bright future wherever he decides to go. But as a Lions fan and a Lions supporter and following this team, it is a product of the success and the culture and the organization that Dan Campbell and company have built. Other people are gravitated towards success. Kelvin Sheppard is having success, making that huge step from a position coach to a coordinator in a short amount of time. And again, from an LSU athletic director, board of directors, whatever it is, whoever's making that hiring decision, I could absolutely see why that makes sense to target one of your own, be a guy with NFL experience, see a guy that brings more than just the X's and O's to his coaching philosophies. Because newsflash, that's huge in college football, recruiting. Wowing these, and I would say kids, but they're not kids, they're professional athletes, because they get paid like it. And there's as much recruiting done in the transfer portal as there is in, as a high school kid. But point being, the fact that Kelvin Sheppard's appearing as a hot commodity is no surprise. And I don't think Lions fans, and everyone can have their own opinion on this because it's purely speculation, but I hope and pray he's not going anywhere. But it is, again, a product of the success and the ability that Kelvin Sheppard has shown to take on a new role and a new promotion type of role, where he's asked to do more as a coordinator now. And again, it's a 7-game sample size, but I think you'd be hard pressed to find find somebody that has taken on that rapid growth as fast and as successfully as Kelvin Sheppard has. Now, other than liking Instagram posts, there's no reason to believe that he's not absolutely satisfied and happy and continuing to be the defensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions. But just as we learned last year with Ben Johnson and AG, this is going to happen. Other teams at not just the NFL level, obviously, but they're going to attempt to poach those position and coaches and coordinators from the Dan Campbell tree. And the same thing, they always talk about these coaching trees. There was the Belichick tree, there was the Shanahan tree, and all of these guys going on to be really successful. because of the foundation that they grew and they learned in. And that foundation set by Dan Campbell is a testament to the organization and the Detroit Lions. So all that to say, hey, I'm praying Kelvin Shepard doesn't go anywhere. Any LSU fans out there, back off. But at the same time, this is part of the gig. This is part of having success. And I can't wait to see Kelvin Shepard continue to be an excellent defensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions. All right, let's close it out with a little more chatter and discussion on the Lions offensive side of things. Don't go anywhere. That's next on the Locked On Lions podcast. Hey, this episode of the Locked On Lions podcast is brought to you by our good friends at Rougiette. There it is. All right, listen up and listen good. Tired of making excuses? Let's be real. Making excuses doesn't solve anything. We've all heard them before. It's just stress. I'm tired. It happens to everyone sometimes. But when it comes to performance, sometimes your body just needs a little extra support. And that's where Rougiette comes in. Rougiette.com offers fast-acting, doctor-prescribed treatments for ED designed to help you stop making excuses and start making moves. Rougiette makes it easy to get started. You just connect with the board-certified doctor, 100% online, no awkward waiting rooms, no in-person appointments. If prescribed, your treatment ships directly straight to your door, and the process is fast, simple, and private. And it's all handled by real doctors. So visit Rougiette.com/LockedOnNFL. That's RUGIET.com/LockedOnNFL to get 15% off your first order. That's Rougiette, RUGIET.com/LockedOnNFL. And don't forget to use our code LockedOnNFL so they know we sent you. Rougiette, stop making excuses and start making moves. Today's episode of the Locked On Lions podcast is also brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game or you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head over to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Hey, we're cruising right along on the Locked On Lions podcast and final segment of the day. This new Lions offense out of the bye week. Obviously, we're not changing any philosophies. We're not coming up with, reinventing the wheel by any means, but there are a lot of questions about this offense coming in. John Morton as the new offensive coordinator, the new offensive line, by new, of course, with Frank Ragnow retiring and some guys in different positions and so on and so forth. But the Lions are one of three teams averaging more than 30 points per game. I'd say that's pretty good. But I would say this, and I think we all would, they can play much, much better. And I want to start up front offensively because there's a couple of different articles about the growth and emergence of some of the younger guys on the offensive line. I'm talking about Tate Ratledge and Christian Mahogany. And the quote from Dan Campbell that stood out to me is they're not young anymore. And I love that because you talk about guys that are in their rookie year, obviously Ratledge being the rookie, and the early portions of the career, the opposite of what you want to do. I mean, you don't want to baby these guys. And I don't think there's any of that with Dan Campbell and this offensive line crew. And it goes without saying, but at the same time, to see them get better each and every game, that's welcomed, but it's also the expectation. And I think Dan Campbell, John Morton, and the rest of the Detroit Lions have done a great job of making that known that that is the expectation. And Hank Fraley, I think, deserves a lot of credit as well as the offensive line coach for how well he's gotten those guys up to speed and how good this Lions offensive line has looked. And we know they can play better too, which is also the scary thing. And we know about the communication breakdowns in Green Bay. We know about just the absolute desperate need for rapid improvement, which we saw in the early portion of this season. And now after the bye week, I fully anticipate this offensive line emerging and continuing to emerge as the strength of this team. And you're going to be counting on guys like Tate Ratledge and Christian Mahogany to not be young, and they're not young anymore. And I just love that quote when I was looking this morning about, what do the Lions offense plan to do out of the bye week, and just that type of clear communication of expectations through from the top on down is just so important, and I think speaks to what this Lions team is all about and how they can continue to emerge as a favorite in the NFC and build on last year. Listen, I know I'm not on every single episode. It's Matt Derry's show, and you get me for one more episode after this one, but I love this team, and it's been so fun to see them get to the point where they are. But this is a make or break year, and I don't get to voice that as often as I'd like, probably, and it'd probably come across like beating a dead horse if I was on this show every single day. But it's Super Bowl or bust, and that's exciting. That you should want that. And last year, we all remember the heartbreak at Ford Field, and it takes every single person in that organization to do their absolute best to ensure that was last year, and what happens this year will be different. And I love having those types of expectations. And I think each and every player on that Detroit Lions team has those same expectations. And from the coaching staff to the front office to the players, you wouldn't want it any other way. That's for sure. But enough preaching. Appreciate everybody tuning in to this episode of the Locked On Lions podcast, and make sure for your next listen, your second listen, because you made this your first listen, right? Am I doing this right? I kid around. I kid. But make sure you check out the Locked On NFL podcast. Make sure you like today's video and subscribe. And as always, I look forward to reading the comments. Maybe they'll be nicer this time. Maybe not so much. We'll see. But in all seriousness, I kid. I really do appreciate the opportunity to hop on Locked On Lions and host as a pinch hitter for Matt Derry, as he enjoys some much deserved time off. We'll do it again tomorrow. Looking forward to that. And as always, thanks so much for making this your first listen each and every day. Make sure you check out Locked On NFL. Have a wonderful rest of your Tuesday or wherever you're listening to this one. And we'll see you next time on the Locked On Lions podcast.